Welcome to the Boo Foons Mystery Investigators. I'm Dan.
I'm Steve.
And today's episode, we're having to record this introduction after the episode has been recorded because we forgot to do it at the time.
I wouldn't say forgot. I'd say we got distracted.
We got distracted. We sort of did a bit of an introduction, but yeah, we're now having to do this one now to be like official and stuff.
We were bewitched.
We were bewitched by a very lovely witch.
One who wasn't afraid to talk to us.
Which made a massive change, because normally we've tried to get witches on the podcast, talk about witchcraft, and we've actually found somebody who's also an expert on all things folklore.
Folkstorian.
A combination of folklore and history. Her name's Katie. You can find her on Instagram as East Anglian Kage. So Kage spelt with a K rather than what you lock up. Absolutely amazing lady. Absolutely amazing. Yep. Very interesting. And all the stuff that she does when she's talking about folklore is really interesting. Yeah.
And please excuse the quality. We did record in a public place whilst we were at the Black Shuck Festival. So you will hear some background noise, but try not to get too distracted by that.
Anyway, over to past us at the Black Shuck Festival with Katie.
Boo Foons Mystery Investigators.
So yes, welcome to the Boo Foons Mystery Investigators, and today we are joined by Katie, also known as the East Anglian Kage. Hello, Katie.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, so we're here at the Black Shuck Festival, which is absolutely fantastic to be able to have you on the podcast to talk a little bit about, obviously, the festival, Black Shuck, and also you are the queen, essentially, from everything I've seen on Instagram and your social media accounts, and that amazing YouTube video that you sent through talking about Lowestoft and all the ghosts there, and the church that we're actually going to visit after being here.
Where
are you going?
Off to the Devil's Church.
Oh, amazing! Obviously, off to Blythebrook. Yeah. Old Borough St Peter. Yeah. Oh my gosh. My history with that place goes way back.
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing that sparked my love of folklore, essentially. So, yeah. Oh, amazing. Oh, you've never seen a church like it. I can guarantee. And it's so vibey. It's got a real untoward kind of feeling to it.
I love your theories around it and all the things you said. Yeah. Supernatural, UFO, paranormal. It's like every folklore. There's everything wrapped up in this one location.
Yeah, I've got a lot of family history with Alderby and Borough St Peter. And honestly, it's the location in my life that I felt the most sort of odd things happening. And even when I was a young child, there was, even though it was this place that was associated with happiness and family and good memories, my parents got married there, things like that, I still always had this really unexplainable, not sinking feeling, but there was an oddness about the place.
Negative energy.
Yeah, I would say, negative energy. It's a heaviness, maybe. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. Is like there's a heaviness, and once I came across the Devil's Church, that really was kind of like the penny dropped, and I was like, oh,
so you think
this is why.
That was the centre of it?
Yeah, I really felt that.
The architecture itself is amazing.
Yes, that sort of ziggurat style.
It. Yeah.
Yes, it's based on Italian architecture, I believe. So,
and it feels out of place because obviously a lot of churches in this area of the world, you have got that stereotypical flint in the brickwork, or looks very like a seaside-y church, but then that one, not at all.
Yeah, it's got its own flavour, for sure. And you feel that when you are in its surroundings as well. And I mean, even the site itself, it's an ancient site of worship. It's been used for thousands of years potentially as a site of worship. So again, there's old gods linked to that place. And I know a lot of churches are built on old sites of worship, but that just feels very. It's got a preternatural kind of vibe to it. And even the door itself, it's from the 1200s. It's steeped in history. So I'm excited for you guys. It's a great spot.
Was that the location where I know you said about sacrificing dogs for the first body to be buried on the...
Grims.
Was that, Grims, that's it. Was that related to that one, or was that just churches in general?
I cannot confirm that. I'm not sure. In terms of Grimm's, so it's very much an East Anglian folklore. In fact, it was the Boaty Tales of East Anglia, a Victorian book written on East Anglian folklore, and within it they're describing how there's these Grims that arise from animals that were buried in a newly consecrated ground. So the idea is that you can't put a body of a person in newly consecrated ground because their spirit will be stuck in limbo. Essentially, they'll neither ascend to heaven or descend to hell, depending on where they're supposed to go.
And that's just the first body.
It's the first body. So as a result of that, they would sacrifice an animal, and then that would become almost like the supernatural warden of the church.
It's almost a very pagan thing to do, isn't it?
It is, yes.
For the tradition to be left over.
But there's a twist with Grimm's, because you kind of hear that story and you go, that's nice, they're a guardian of the church. But then you find out that actually to spot one was a bad omen. So if you saw a churchyard Grimm yourself, it was a symbol of bad luck. If you were to see a Grimm and then hear the church bells chime at midnight, it's an omen, a death omen, so you were sure to die. And then apparently the folklore says that only the priest or vicar who is overseeing a burial is able to see a Grimm, and they will typically see the Grimm standing on the coffin of those about to be lowered into the ground, and they will be able to tell where the spirit is going, either hell or heaven bound, based on how the Grimm looks at them. And that is the story.
So how many of them do you reckon were black dogs in this area
to
have then become Black Shuck?
Black Shuck. Well, I don't know necessarily if that lore is linked to Shuck, but then I think East Anglia as a whole has got such a lineage when it comes to wolves and wolven history. So I think if we maybe look more at that in Bury St Edmunds, for example, they found, and I still don't think this has been explored enough, next to the churchyard in Bury St Edmunds, my mind forgets what one, but there was a massive pit found of wolf skulls. And at the time, archaeologists said that they believed it was just potentially that of someone who would use wolf hides or whatever and then dispose of the bones. But I just think that's too... You wouldn't put them all in consecrated ground, and you wouldn't keep them all in one place. There's a lot more to it than that. And I think maybe when we look at Shuck in relation to Grimm's, personally, I would relate Grimm's more to the hateful thing, which is another piece of folklore in East Anglia. Another chapter. Another interesting one. I would say Grimm's are much more of a link to the hateful thing, which is you're in the hot spot for the hateful thing, by the way. You're in the Waveney Valley, so it's a guardian of the borderline between Norfolk and Suffolk. So.
And is hateful thing more of a feeling, do you say, than an actual physical thing?
Unlike Shuck, which is a physical presence that people see and witness and
breaks
experience.
necks.
And shrinks people into leather. Apparently the guy survived. I don't know how, but unlike Shuck, the hateful thing is much more of a perceived feeling. So again, it's the hairs on end, the feeling of a sense of dread and doom, somebody staring at you. You can't shake it.
So which way does it work? Is it a case of Ipswich supporters going across the border get that feeling, or canaries going across the border?
I can't possibly. My mum would be like canaries all the way, but I'm blasphemous. My dad's a Chelsea fan because he grew up in London. And I'm somewhat of a blues fan, so, and not Ipswich, by the way. Can I just say, not that blue?
Okay, that's all right. I won't leave the interview.
So it's fine. We can't do too much football. Footy politics ain't the one. But I'm sure they would tell you of a hateful thing they experienced crossing the border. Yeah, definitely.
So sorry, being a Norfolk boy, it's a case of had to get it in. You've
You're
said
Canaries
it.
through and through. Then you're Delia Smith, and
definitely
Let's be
Delia.
having you.
Yeah. Yeah. Although we haven't had many wines yet to start shouting, let's be having you.
Oh, I know. I don't need any. It's fine. It's in our blood.
Yeah, no, it was just when you sort of said it's on that border of Norfolk and Suffolk. It's a case of like there has always been, in a way, that rivalry between the two counties.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like if there is some form of folklore that links to that boundary, could it also be linked to that historic sort of almost feud between the North folk and the South folk is that a thing that was created by them as a story, or is that a thing that's always been there, which is what caused the natural divide in the counties? Or
it's an interesting
that's the sort of thing that's the sort of thing that my mind starts going is, like you said about the history of things. Like my mind immediately starts going down that. Well, could that be?
Where's it drawn
Try
from?
and connect the
I mean,
dots.
you're kind of speaking. You're either speaking to the right or the wrong person here, because I claim dual heritage. You see, I grew up on the Waveney Valley border. The River Waveney is literally the divider between Norfolk and Suffolk. So, being a Beccles gal, I claim dual heritage. I belong to both.
Excellent.
I feel much closer to Norfolk, I will say. I love Norwich, and I've always spent more time sort of on the North Norfolk coast and things like that growing up. But I'm sort of I tread both sides of that line.
Maybe that's why you are where you are in your life, and the things you can see and appreciate because you were on that border.
Yeah, maybe a liminal space. Yeah.
So where would you say your love of folklore came from? Essentially.
Yeah, that's a really nice question. I've always been a bit odd, I will say that.
Join the club?
Yeah. Even by my nearest and dearest, I think they would say, it's one of those things where it's like it's that when you're, it sounds like boo-hoo, but when you're a kid, it's that weird kind of feeling of a very specific feeling of loneliness when even the people closest to you don't quite get you.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And
I know what you mean.
And I always kind of had that, and I was always drawn growing up to odd artwork or even things that, and my sense of humour has always been very irreverent, very left, and I'm fortunate that my family very much has that, so that's good. And I feel like folklore just became the perfect home for that without me realising, because I think it's so quintessentially English in a quite weird, odd, irreverent way, and I feel like it kind of gave me a sense of belonging that I didn't realise I needed. So I kind of had that with music. I'm still a massive music fan, and alternative music kind of gave me a good route for that growing up. But then when going back to the Devil's Church in Blythburgh, my brother-in-law, who he's been in my life since I was about 7. He noticed as I grew up, okay, so Kate has got this, leaning towards the other, weird things. He could sense that and perceive that. And his dad, and he's very much like that, and his dad's very much like that. So he kind of encouraged it, and he took us to the Devil's Church on a family day out.
Like you do.
As you do,
Yeah,
Quite, what kind of family are you growing up? Well, this is what we enjoyed. That says something about me. And he specifically was like, I know where to take her, I know where to show her, and it really sparked something in my brain and made me understand that there was so much more that I didn't understand, and I think that.
Was it your brother-in-law's father had an experience with Black Shuck?
Yes, the painting that I've got with me today.
That's I've seen it online, but it comes.
I wish John, my brother-in-law, his father Joe passed away in 2017, but he is somebody who I wish everybody could meet, because he had old magic about him. There was something, he was an artist, he was a folk musician, he could play any instrument under the sun you gave in front of him. He made wooden puppets, folk puppets that would dance. He called his Mr. Leggett, and our New Year's Eves, again growing up, learning a lot about where I come from. Yeah. Growing up, our New Year's Eves, Joe would come around and play the fiddle, and we'd all be dancing with this little wooden puppet, and it's very East Anglia. And he had an experience with Shuck in 1974, He was with his friend. They were heading to do some sea canoeing, and they were crossing a bridge in Henstead when Shuck appeared on the bridge in front of them. He was sort of the side. I say he. Maybe I'm gendering. I see Shuck as a he, but
he does give that vibe.
yeah. I think he appeared.
That doesn't get a maternal feeling
No,
around it.
no. But it's interesting you said. We'll come back to that. But I mean, it's the size of a calf, big shaggy mane, piercing eyes, staring him down. And him and his friends immediately they slammed the brakes, stopped the car. They turned to look at each other. They'd both seen it to think, what the hell was that? What have we just seen? When they turned back, it had gone. Yep. But the really interesting thing about Joe's account is that I grew up constantly being told, "Beware the black dog." That was a real. He was an omen of death. He was a harbinger of doom. You did not mess with Black Shuck. But Joe, in his older years, his later life, he really came to see Shuck as a protector, because what happened that night, him and his friend, because they got out of the car to look around, couldn't obviously find anything. They ended up missing a massive tidal surge that they believed they would have been caught up with and died. So Joe believed, especially in his later years, that Shuck very much saved his life. Which is a really interesting spin on the tale and a really nice.
Probably a healthy way of looking at things, because quite often something like that happens. If you live to tell the tale, then you've lived. That's the important part.
Yeah, and I mean, do you know of the original sort of, well, from where I grew up, because there's different essences of Shuck all over East Anglia, but from where I grew up, I was told that you couldn't talk about seeing Shuck for a year.
For a year, yeah.
Yeah, and if you did, then you'd die. So that was, again, as a kid.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's also another thing you say. Where did my love of folklore come from? That's another thing where it's. It's quite morbid, and I've got a really weird, morbid curiosity and sense of humour. So it kind of ticks those boxes. So yeah.
You see, from my angle, being a Fen boy, for me it was very much Black Shuck was a demon, will appear at graveyards, and it's very much an omen of death. But there was no sort of rules around it. It was very much, if you see it, run.
Yeah.
If you see Black Shuck, run.
Don't stand
because you are
for
going
him.
to die.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
For me and my side of things, it was very much a bad thing. And then when we did the research for the episode all about it, we then found several stories from different little pockets from around East Anglia where Shuck is seen as a protector.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones where it's very much, no, omen of death. And it's either you're going to die or somebody you know is going to die. And it depends on which little pocket you pick up. So it was interesting the more I researched it. Oh, there are other stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen that in so much folklore around the country, where if you see it, it's an omen of death.
Yeah.
And it always seems to be an omen of death.
Well, you think these stories stem from a time where people didn't understand the world, and they needed something to help them understand the world. They needed something to help them rationalise death, which was so common. Yeah. And it's moments like that when you start to realise, well, yeah, if this story helps people rationalise or deal with grief or whatever it was, it starts to make a heck of a lot of sense why it's got this negative association.
It's like a lot of we found out a lot of folklore is basically nursery bogey stories or bogeymen. So basically to warn children, like the old public information films we used to have my generation used to have as kids on TV. Avoid the lakes, avoid swimming, avoid electricity.
There's so much of that in Japanese culture as well.
Yes,
a lot
we did. We've done a lot of Japanese stuff as well.
Yeah.
Staying away from
staying
rivers,
away from water.
staying
Yeah.
waters, yeah.
But do you know what? Sorry. I find it really odd that there's not more of that. I mean, there might be more sort of Norfolk way where the Broads are, the Norfolk Broads, but I mean, there's not that much in terms of water. Where even I grew up along a river, but I wasn't really brought up with water-based folklore to keep me away from it. It's an interesting spin on it, and I think I'm in a place now. I mean, part of the reason why I'm here today is I'm trying to collate and sort of gain that evidence as to which side the coin is now falling when it comes to Shuck, because I grew up with the negative associations, but then even you think the existence of a festival like Black Shuck Festival,
Yes.
you know, that's a positive thing, and people are really
Very much
embracing
so.
it. So, and it's family and kids are here, and you know, it doesn't marry with the shock that I grew up with, and certainly not by the sounds.
No,
of, yeah.
definitely not, no.
Yeah.
And the great thing was about this festival is it's not overly commercialized. It still feels
Very folky.
yes, and I'm so pleased that that's happened. I know it's a relatively new festival, and I think it's just absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is what everybody who has their own folklore legends should be doing.
Yeah. Oh,
Everyone should be embracing their folklore, their legends, their myths. It's so important
it's
for the
part
culture.
of, yeah, and it's part of why, I mean, it's in my name, my stage name, as it were. Okay, there are negative connotations with East Anglia, growing up in East Anglia, I'm sure you know. But there are things that I love about East Anglia, and the folkness of it is something that I still absolutely, it's, you know, yes, it's very hard to get to and an absolute, you know, pain in the backside to travel around. The public travel infrastructure maybe isn't there, but it means that we still keep this odd remoteness, and especially here we're really far east. We're not quite Lowestoft, but it's difficult to get in and out of this area, and that keeps us quite remote, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, it is something that when I come back to visit family, it's always that thing of it warms my heart to start with, but also you can talk to people about things. So if I were to go so I now live in Bedford, and if I were to go into a pub in Bedford and then say, oh yeah, I was looking at this story about ghosts, or oh yeah, did you know there's this legend about this particular road? Everyone would look at you like you've grown a second head, and what on earth are you talking about?
Right.
Coming to a pub around here and go, oh yeah, I was looking, and actually when we've been around your way, around Devon and Cornwall, what are those?
People are so happy to talk about things because everyone's got a story.
Yes. Yeah.
Everyone's got a story. But when I grew up in London, because that's where I grew up, the nearest I got to folklore and legends was the Hammer House of Horror.
Right.
You know, TV, you know, horror films, you know, the folk stories combined with horror stories with Hammer, and you know, any that kind of stuff. Though I loved it.
A great injection. Yeah.
But then, I mean, I think almost must be a quarter of our episodes we've done have been on Norfolk folklore, because there's so much of it.
But then even you saying, you know, finding it, Bedford's a very centralised area with a lot of human migration. Places like East Anglia or Devon and Cornwall that are more sort of on the outer regions with less human migration, less change, essentially, you're going to maintain. So much folklore is oral tradition. It's stories passed down. It's being in the pub and someone going, oh yeah, my cousin saw Shuck once, let him tell you, you know.
My favourite film of that still is American Wolf in London, you know, in the slaughtered lamb, stay off the moors, stay on the path. Yeah. And that's it.
But that's, again, rooted in folklore, rooted in, you know, safety, basically. And
stray off onto the moors, and that's the start.
Yeah, keeping people safe, essentially, but you find that these places that are more remote, more difficult to reach or leave, maybe? I don't know.
Well, it was funny, because in the early 90s, which just seems like yesterday, I went to Devon with my wife, who's black, with my friend, a colleague used to work with, who's Welsh, and with his girlfriend, who was Chinese. So we went to Devon, and we went into a pub, and literally it was like a Western. You know, there was a scratch to the record. The music stopped. Everyone stopped. Everyone just stared at us for the whole time. It was just, but that was something like 30 years ago.
It's wild, isn't it? The Wild West.
There, they'd never seen couples like that, or probably never seen anybody who wasn't white. Now it's a different world, but still there are pockets which are still the same families that live there forever.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, maybe, you know, you're touching on there some of the reasons why maybe I'm not so fond of East Anglia. But we'll stay on the positive. It's nice that we have the comfort. For me, I grew up here and I was bored to death, right? I hated living in East Anglia when I was a kid. So I can say that now because it's very much changed. But as I was growing up, I really felt like there was a real lack of opportunity, a real lack of any sort of get up and go. Nobody had any drive. Nobody wanted to achieve anything. And that kind of, you know, that did my head in a little bit. It's like I can't be the only one that is trying to think outside of this. But in the same vein, as I grew up, absolutely fell in love with the landscape of which I was surrounded by. Not necessarily the people, but the landscape. And then it became a case of, well, I don't want to leave. I actually want to make the most of where I am and explore and enjoy that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, I travel a lot and that's hugely important. But in terms of now and raising my daughter, I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather raise her, because I'm like,
That's the thing about travel. You appreciate home more. You
Yeah,
appreciate what
yeah.
you love more.
And the stories that come from home more, and the people who know it. And like you say, being able to approach somebody and say something weird and then be like, cool, let's talk, instead of, who are you? Yeah.
Well, so even last night in the pub, so we got to my grandparents and always go round to the pub around the corner from there. There's the Ship Inn in Pakefield.
Yes.
And one of the barmaids noticed Steve was wearing the T-shirt last night, and they were laughing about our name. And I sort of explained, and then they went, "Oh, do you know about Crazy Mary?" I said, "Well, actually, funny enough, we're actually got some notes, and we are going to record about Crazy Mary, yeah. So we do know about it." And this bloke goes, "Oh, yeah, well, I used to live in a house on that road that she goes up and down, and my letterbox used to lift up and down by
All the
itself."
time, 9 o'clock every night, all the time. Just the letterbox would go crazy, and they thought it was the wind. And it's like, is it the wind? No. Then they kept looking at it, and they looked at it, and he realised that there was nobody at the letterbox and nobody at the door, and it would
A
just go
non-windy
crazy.
day.
On
It's
a
like you're
non-windy
still
day,
trying
yeah.
to rationalise it. It's like, yeah.
So at that point, the house is haunted,
Yeah, well,
or at least the letterbox.
I've got a haunted letterbox. You imagine that? Yeah, but hey, you can say that in this
Yeah.
environment, and people are like, "Cool, tell me more."
And that's the thing. Other people said, yeah, well, the Falcon pub next to it, whatever. Yeah, that's haunted, and there's tunnels underneath there, and it's like everywhere has a story, and it's amazing.
I mean, even where I live, my house is very much haunted. I'm in the old workhouse that's built in the 1700s. Yeah, that's just up the road from here. And it's there's definitely sort of presences in the house, not malicious, but
What sort of things have you experienced? If
so,
any, or is it just more of a feeling?
It's more of a feeling. I have the main thing that happens to me is that, you know, when you can sense somebody is behind a door, or they're there, and you know they're there.
Yeah.
I have that. That's a constant in my house. There's always somebody lingering around my door. I've had to do. Again, I hope I'm in the right environment for this. I'm a practicing witch, so...
Yes, we'll ask you about that as well.
there you go.
Yeah, that is on our list, yeah.
We haven't been able to get any witches to talk to us.
Yeah, every time we've emailed covens
talk to
and
us.
that,
I don't
they
know
just
why.
won't.
It's-
And even
yeah.
through social media, we've reached out.
Yeah,
Will
yeah.
not respond.
Oh, it's an odd one. I'm a single practitioner. I haven't sort of found. I have friends who are witches. Val Thomas is very, very well known. Oh,
Hey.
see, we're always surrounded.
Yeah.
See, yes, by those who know the craft. People are more than they know.
That's why you're sitting here.
Yeah,
It's meant to be.
But you know that I practice alone. But you know, I've not found my coven as yet. I'm sort of happy in my own, I guess. But I've had to do different rituals in the house based on different energies. So our ensuite bathroom is has a very draining energy to it. I know, again, witches. I feel like, I'm glad you guys are open-minded, because again,
absolutely,
it's one of those things, it's that line, isn't it, of like, who can I say this to? And people start to go, okay, I'm out now. Like, and I kind of find it weird, because I find so many people will be about folklore or stories or ghosts, but then you start talking to them about witchcraft and they're like, nah. And it's like, well, hang on a second, if you can believe in certain other things, how can you not?
We've looked at, for the last year, we've interviewed people, we've interviewed about their experiences and what they believe, and we've also, the more we look into things, it's all linked, everything is all connected together. And I think there's so much more in the universe and the world than we know, and we can't, and should know, perhaps we should never know, and we will never know, but
That's the joy of it.
we can't say no. I think that's fear that does that. People are scared, so they refuse to accept.
Yeah. Agreed.
To give you some sort of context, it's a case of the thing that binds the two of us is ghosts and a love of ghost stories. I'm very much love folklore, mythology, all of that sort of thing. Steve's very much into his aliens and UFOs and that sort of thing. So our podcast is so broad and wide, and we will cover everything. And then we went to Boss Castle. And we actually went to the Witchcraft Museum.
I've never been.
And I will admit,
Apparently there's covens there of witches who meet regularly, and druids who meet regularly there as well. And but they all apparently meet because they're all congregate there. We asked if we could interview them, and it's like, we've told you too much already. But apparently they meet in the local village hall. And that's where the coven, and they all meet together.
There are some covens that are very, will keep themselves. And there's
I don't blame them because there's been so much persecution.
And exactly, there's a huge debate online at the minute because obviously, I think we're all seeing it anyways. I think Ben Edge is calling it the folklore renaissance, isn't he? We had the revival in the 70s, and this is now the renaissance. But alongside that, we're seeing a massive increase in interest in witchcraft. And I think there's a huge divide with people either thinking, it should be, keep it secret, keep it safe, or, spread the word. And I'm much more of I think if people are genuinely, they have the right heart and are genuinely interested, I can't see the problem myself. I think things that make people feel better about themselves and their lives, I think I'm all for that. So if they can find that in witchcraft or folklore, whatever it is, then...
Yeah, I'll admit, I sort of went into that museum going... I know very little about witchcraft, only all the stories and the persecution and all the witch trials and the history side of things, and knowing very little itself about practicing witchcraft itself, only what you see on TV and that, wearing the weird hat and having the broomstick that they fly around. And going into that museum in Boscastle, the thing that sort of set me off on edge to start with, as in on the back foot to start with, was the very first display was things like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And
he was a 90s icon for me.
One of those things of that audible eye roll of...
Oh, yeah. You're getting the perception that it's going to be like, yeah.
And then we went through that and then understood why they started with that, because it's a case of this is how people perceive witches. And then we went into the rest of it. And then when we went into the rest of the museum, it was a real eye-opening experience of, wow, this makes sense. Wow, this makes sense. Looking at all the... Because obviously potions and that is a big thing that comes through into stories. And then you actually look at, they actually had the witch's cupboard. And you're looking at all the things that are actually in the witch's cupboard going, oh, well, I have that in my cupboard. Oh,
yeah, these are active ingredients for this medication,
Oh, well, even if you think of Culpepper's, Victorian book on natural remedies. Read. I have a copy at home.
200 years beforehand.
Yeah. And you look back and I read it and it breaks my heart a little bit because in it it'll be written. I'm not going to bother to explain what the hawthorn plant looks like because so many people. I'm sort of teaching people to suck eggs and it's like you showed that to someone in 2026. Point out a hawthorn plant, they have no clue where to start. But a few hundred years ago, that was just common knowledge, and they knew that could help you sleep. It was, and it's knowledge.
Too much fit, a bad thing, perhaps, but the right amount. All right.
Hey, if you've got any enemies out there, Were either of you tempted to, dip your toe in witchcraft?
I would love to.
We have spoken about it.
Yeah, I would actually love to. I genuinely would love to, and this is part of the reason why I've sort of tried to reach out to covens and that, is I would love to go along to a practicing session, just get fully involved and go, let's see what happens.
But then it is a very sacred space.
That's the other problem as well.
Again, that's why people didn't want to talk to us because of the name and the cartoon character. But again, when stuff is serious, we take it serious. We just try to be... A lot of people get turned off these subjects because people online are too serious.
Yeah.
So they're too serious, they get scared, they get worried, they don't like it, they just turn off, they tune out. So what we try to be is that balance in the middle where we're approachable. We were talking to the Reverend down the road, Reverend Graham, whatever, who's from the church anyway. And he basically brought up, it's like, he said it, it's like horrible histories, but with the mysteries.
That's quite a nice one.
And so it's like, quite like that. It's trying to make it fun and enjoyable and accessible.
If you have fun, you're learning. That's kind of, I always had that when I was teaching. I always had that kind of mantra of if you're having fun, then you're learning. It's kind of like, people have a nice time and have fun, and then they're like, oh, and now I really remember
You've
that.
actually learned it,
I can see where you're coming from. But then when it comes to, I can totally understand from a coven perspective why they wouldn't have outsiders involved in actual rituals or practices they were undertaking, because that's a sacred space and that will potentially harm the ritual in itself.
Yeah.
But there are, I would say, if that's more what you want to do, there are a lot of healing spaces that you could go to. There's witches' circles, which are run. There's a few that are run in the area, where it's more of an open circle, and people are allowed to enter and I would advise that's the best route to go if you're interested.
Yeah.
Don't hit up a coven straight away and be like, let me into your very sacred ritual, and it's a tight circle.
My thing is, I've never really been into organised religion because I believe that all that came off other stuff. And I would rather I'm more interested in what came before it and what inspired that than what's come afterwards. And it's all, our world has been built on organised religion, whether it be good or bad or wherever we're looking. But the original religions,
old gods and paganism
they were there eternity before religion took over.
Yeah. And before
They
a
must have been-
monotheistic
absolutely.
template.
They must have been doing something right. I know a lot of it was explaining about the world around us, but who knows? They were more in touch with themselves.
They were revering and worshipping women.
Yes. One thing we found out actually at the Witchcraft Museum is on the board they had the name of all the witches executed, killed, murdered, and there was a lot of men on there as well, a lot. But we grew up only being told it was women who were witches. And what was it? One place we were looking at as well. I think it was in Guernsey or Jersey. They were talking about the witch trials in Jersey, which was quite severe. But only about 25% of the witches were found guilty. But again, as far as we're concerned, everybody who was accused was automatically put to death.
I mean, witchcraft is my main passion when it comes to history. It's what I studied at university, and it was actually the study of witchcraft history that got me into witchcraft practice. That's kind of where I don't come from a lineage of witches. I don't have witch heritage, although I do have a very strange bump on my ear, which I've had this since birth. I think, again, this is where I get this is how East Anglian I am here, this little bump here. I've had this since birth. They think it was an extra ear growing. That's how East Anglian I am. I don't have any web toes, by the way, but my mum used to call it my witch's bump, Katie's witch's mark, and then it's really crazy because I used to perceive things were going to happen before they did, and my mum used to call them my witchy feelings as I was growing up. But then I've had my little girl. So do you think that
inspired you?
I don't know. I don't know if it found me or I found it, but my little girl now also has a bump on her left ear, which is really, really odd. Yeah, so it's.
And you said you're bringing her up with that way of life, which is.
And again, it's not. I'm with you. I have a real problem with organised religion, but I have a lot of time for personal faith. Going back to what I said about things making people feel better about their lives or themselves.
As long as it doesn't hurt others.
As long as exactly. And again, this that I more toe that line of if you find things that again don't hurt others, that appeal to you, that speak to you, then chase it. And again, folklore. I use the word chase. And going back to did it find me, did I find it? I think there comes a point in your life where the sum of things catch up with you and you suddenly go, oh, this is why I am how I am. And then it's up to you whether you chase it or not. Yeah. You can either continue defying it or pushing it away or ignoring it, or you can chase it and fully lean into it.
Can I ask you a question about witchcraft?
Yeah.
Right. Is, from what I've seen, Satanism, devil, and witchcraft didn't really go together until the 1960s and 70s when film and TV and various. It wasn't a big thing.
The Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
Or referring.
It sort of happened when all the films in the 60s and 70s started linking witchcraft with Satanism.
Well,
we
that
didn't see
happened.
Much else.
So the witchcraft with Satanism, actually, you have to go way far back to sort of the medieval church.
That would be the church.
Yeah, so in order to make witchcraft the sin that it was... Hello. Bless. Come and talk to us about witchcraft.
And then they appear.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they say that, don't they? Witches attract animals and children. So
I don't know which one.
that's why I was a teacher, you see. Going back to medieval Christianity, they needed to find a way to turn witchcraft into a real sin, because you have cunning folk up until that time. You have cunning magic. People who are very much useful to the community. I guess midwives would somewhat tread that line as well. People who would know a lot about the natural world and natural remedies. And it wasn't until the Christian church basically created, the medieval Christian church created the idea of Satan as this demonic figure. And even then, when you think about it, the depictions of Satan don't exist before that time. You start to look all of a sudden at the medieval depictions of Satan, and they don't exist before that time, really. I mean, original sin is depicted as a snake in the Bible.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, again, from what my whole feeling about Satan and the devil in the Bible is he's just there to tempt. Never anything worse than that. It's God that just kills everybody.
Yeah, and if you take Lucifer, that's a deity who you can work with in your witchcraft practice.
But not bad.
No, and he's
the temptation is not bad.
No, it's actually, from my perspective, again, you know, I don't know if people will be out there be like, oh, you're saying too much or whatever, but I mean, personally, I'm more of a sharing is caring kind of gal. You know, again, respecting boundaries and people's rituals and spirituality. But for me, it's Lucifer is someone who, in my practice, represents balance and represents embracing your shadow self. So St. Michael is sort of the archangel equivalent of Lucifer. In some, I guess, folklore or stories, I guess they're depicted as brothers, and you see that in TV and film as well. And it's actually the sort of the idea that everybody requires lightness and darkness within them to fully operate, and it ties in really nicely with witchcraft, the Hermetic principles. Part of that, also so much of that, the 7 Hermetic principles, and part of that is embracing gender. So you're embracing both your feminine and your masculine, and then also, just your balance of light and darkness, and how that works within you, and how you can use it to your.
So it's very similar to the Oriental yin and yang in a way.
It is, yeah, wholeheartedly, and that you're not a whole without those things. You can't have one without the other. So again, it depends on how, you know, there are full Satanists that do worship Lucifer.
Again, you can see why the organised religion would be scared of that, because that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's basically saying, don't have to follow me. You know, don't follow. You do what
you do what speaks to you.
That's it. And you can't have that.
You can't
if you're
control
trying to,
people that way. No, if you don't have fear, you don't have control.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the major religions of the day. You know, there's the ones who are succeeding now are the ones who live purely on fear.
Yeah. And look what's happening politically.
Yes.
Not to get, you know, I don't know how.
We've got to be very careful with politics.
Exactly.
But we can see how the world is changing because of.
Without fear, you don't have control. Yeah.
And it's also what my understanding of witchcraft is as well, is it's a very holistic thing as well. Whereas compared to to bounce off Steve's thing about organised religion is very much, this is what you're doing because of this. Whereas my understanding of witchcraft is it is very holistic of yourself. You're thinking about your body, your mental state, and everything in the world around you in the natural world.
Again, it depends wholeheartedly on what your practice is. So if you follow Wicca, you follow the Wiccan religion. You are following a strict religious sort of set of principles there.
Is it an official religion on census?
Yeah. People, I feel like it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, especially in America. I think it's particularly.
I think, isn't it? People feel like they want to get more in touch with whilst technology has taken over and laws and rules have become stricter and tougher. It's a break of freedom.
Yes, yeah. It's it represents everything that's been taken away from us in the modern world, and I think that's why it speaks to so many people now. Because, like you say, we're living in a world that's predominantly overrun by tech and billionaires,
and we can't see it getting better.
Global warming, and we can't see it getting better. No. So what do? We reclaim what we can, and part of that is the land or what we can take from the land in a holistic, natural, giving and taking kind of way, a balanced way. But folklore falls into that. That is massively falls into that. What you can take from the land and give to it as well. I feel like with what I'm doing, I'm both taking and giving to the land. I'm taking the stories, but I'm giving them back by sharing them and talking to people about it. And it's balance, isn't it? And I think actually.
And we're thinking, even today, walking around the festival, realise how important this is. we have to maintain this. This has to stay.
And from a folk perspective as well, like you say, the really DIY grassroots perspective.
I hear so many young people saying they've got nothing to be proud about this country. There's nothing to be proud about where they come from, even down to the village, the town, the city, the country. But we've got the richest culture on the planet.
And so much of that is born from diversity as well, which I find so ironic that, you know, as an island, we have been, you know, we are, our genetics, our lineage is made of so many different parts. And it's, you know, we've always had, you know, a richness in terms of diversity in from the sense of where we come from. And the stories of the land are filled with that diversity and that richness of diversity. And so, actually, the irony there, Going
on that, and also sort of hollering back to you saying you're a teacher.
Yeah.
Now, we're basically same generation, very similar age. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was at school, it was very much, I was taught about things like the Fenland skaters, the history of the fens, the drainage of the fens, a little bit about boggarts. And so that was all part of my, obviously we did things like the Romans and the Vikings, all that sort of stuff. But there was a big thing of, this is the fens, this is where you're from. We even looked at stories at school like Tom Hickathrift, which we've actually covered on the podcast before. And I remember that being all part of the history at primary school. That probably
helped you form your identity as a child.
Yeah, and then at secondary school, when we did things about workhouses, we learned about Gresson Hall, and we actually went to Gresson Hall on a trip.
What a goated school trip that is if you grow up in East Anglia.
Especially when they've got the costume people there. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's not quite, it's not Banham Zoo, Framlingham Castle.
I didn't go to Framlingham.
Colin Marshes, that's another one. Yeah, typically ticking off the typical school trips. Yeah, but that was up there. Yeah.
But then, as a teacher now, and a big thing that I've been trying to fight for is within the school is teaching more about the history of Bedford.
Yes.
Because what I found is the history curriculum and everything we do is so broad and so generic. Of this is a big thing that impacts the whole of Britain, rather than just, this is Bedford, this is Bedfordshire, these are the things that happen here. And I've deliberately sort of put things in of, there's this bloke that lived in Cardington just up the road, this is all the things he contributed to the world. By the way, did you know that he did this? And this is what he did locally. And so I've made a big point of trying to, and I even do trips to the museum in the town centre, to make sure that the kids know the history of where they're living and where they're born.
Moisters Hall in Bury St Edmunds is amazing for that, I would say, for actually embracing schools and school trips, because again, I think that's getting harder for schools to have the finances to actually go to.
So I don't know if you've felt that as well, of that when we grew up, it was very much, you did learn about the history of where you were, but then as a teacher, I've only ever taught it because I've wedged it in, purely because I personally think it's an important thing. But the actual curriculum that we follow is a generic pack made by generic people, and this is what you have to teach.
With a subversive empire kind of undercurrent. I didn't like that. There's I would say, coming from history teaching background, there was a very, very small margin for me to actually embed local stories into the curriculum. There is one segment of the curriculum, and I was able to take advantage of this for my year 8, where we were able to teach a section about the locality, and that's where I was like, right, I'm doing witchcraft. Like, I need, because people, again, another thing that I really share and want people to know more about is just how much this area in particular suffered at the hands of the likes of Matthew Hopkins, who we know more from popular culture and is sort of almost has this, camp celebratory sort of, people love Matthew Hopkins in a camp,
it's weird, isn't it, how people,
like a pop culture kind of way, including myself, which is really weird because I'm on the other coin. I know exactly what he did and just how much of a...
That's what time does, though, isn't it? Time changes people.
It does.
Like you're saying, Black Shuck, how people terrified at one point, and then...
Yeah.
But bad guys often turn into some sort of figure that people...
Especially I guess it's that, going back to what you said earlier about how not knowing how many witchcraft victims were male, it's that conversation that people have where it's, 20%, if you look at Europe as a whole, 20% of witchcraft related deaths were for men. But it's, so that's 1/5, and a lot of people think that people were persecuted for being witches because they were women. No, they were persecuted because they were believed to be witches. It just so happened that, particularly in a society controlled by the Christian Church, it was very easy to make women more likely to.
Again, don't want to be controversial, but this is what happens with Islam. What we're seeing there, if you fall out with your wife and you don't want her anymore, you blame her, you accuse her of something. Of course, don't have to accuse them of witchcraft now. It can just be adultery, or it can be whatever, and then you've got rid of her. And it's the only. I think it's the only sort of faith that does it at the moment. But it's very much like that. You look back at the persecution. How many of those people were killed just because somebody didn't like them?
If the groundwork is laid that it's science or common sense that these things are believed, and I'm going to witchcraft here and thinking of the Malleus Maleficarum. It's so much of what that said was based on what was written in the Bible. So you couldn't possibly argue with the book, because if you were arguing with the Malleus, you were arguing with the Bible. So essentially, you had no wiggle room there. But if the Malleus is arguing that women are more likely to be witches because they have slippery tongues and are more likely to gossip, it's one of these, and it's crazy because that stigma and that still exists. That you find the undercurrent of that still exists today. It hasn't disappeared. I think, obviously, fortunately, it is 2026, but still, even in 2026, we're nowhere near as progressive as we should be. But yes, it's better than in 1526. But you still see that they still exist, those ideals, whether it's undercurrent, subversive or avert in your face, they still exist today.
Yeah. Well, with Matthew Hopkins, we were at Yarmouth Minster yesterday.
Right.
Where
you guys are really packing for your
Yeah.
trip here. Yeah, you've got to make it worth your while.
Absolutely. Hardly slept.
Where obviously you've got somewhere in those grounds are witches that were executed by Matthew Hopkins, somewhere in there in unmarked graves. And it's like, well,
But at least their names at the moment. There's a plaque on the wall with their
But
names.
I mean, even we are
Seven.
witch tonight. That's happening in the church before they're doing the reenactment of Shuck bursting into St Mary's Church. They're doing that tonight. Before that, they actually have. I would definitely recommend going to St Mary's Church, because they have hanging up at the minute a massive patchwork quilt that's been made by a project called We Are Witch, and they essentially gave different sections of the patchwork quilt to different individuals in the area. Whether I know Norfolk Folklore Society did one. There's known witches who made some, just different sympathisers or supporters of the cause. They were given a different piece of the patchwork quilt and given an individual who was killed for witchcraft, and they had to learn about their story and then make a piece of the quilt.
that's cool.
Based on what they learned, and there was no guidelines to it. They made what spoke to them, and it is absolutely beautiful. I really suggest you go and check that out. That is, and it's.
So is it going to be open later on? Because we've been past there a couple of times. It's still shut.
Yeah. Oh no, the church should be open. Yeah. To go see.
Is there another way? Because unless there's a different door.
There's a side door that should be
Oh,
open.
right, there we go.
Yeah, there's a side door that should
We
be open.
didn't investigate very well. So
Hey, these
Yeah.
are God's houses. They're open to everybody at all times.
Oh yeah.
Well, today we did.
That's when my wife left. She was Catholic. She quit because every time she'd go for help, there'd be no one there.
Oh,
It was locked. The doors were locked.
oh, that's very.
Yeah. So that was in London. So,
Anti-what?
yeah.
Yeah.
And she realised that they're not there to help you
Not
when
there
you
to
need
help
it.
when you need. Wow.
So that's why she left.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that does go against what's supposed to be. Yeah. You should be able to get in at all times, including if you're Black Shuck. So and it's 1577. Yeah. Yeah, but definitely check that out, because that's, I think, a really important part of what maybe we're missing, is the telling the individual stories and, like you say, the names of the individuals involved.
Yes.
We know Matthew Hopkins, we know his name, but do we know the name of all his victims? No, we don't. You know, and that is a tragedy. That in itself is
it really
awful,
is.
you know, and it's that projects like We Are Witch are what we need to happen more prevalently, so that people actually learn more of the victims and, you know, their stories, because it's so important that we tell them.
Yeah, well, we covered the King's Lynn Witch at one point, didn't we? The one that has the heart on the wall.
Oh,
in
the
marketplace.
exploding heart! Yes,
Yeah.
the burning.
That
Yes,
was fascinating.
yes, that's a very fascinating one.
And for
Yeah.
them to actually mark that,
Yes, it's
rather than
still
just,
there,
I mean,
yeah.
if it didn't happen, why would you have
Why
made
would
up
you?
such a strange story that no one else has made
Again,
up?
it's when you start to unpick these folkloric stories and you start to, you know, I mean, when you start to unpick Shuck, there is so much to it. There's, you know, even if you go down the line that it was like LSD style hallucinations based on like by a crop that is I mean, you know, when you start to actually unpick the history of how it could have happened, why people believe they saw what they saw, it really does start to get a little, you know, how, why.
But there are so much folklore. It's like that. I find it hard sometimes to actually look and listen to the folklore and try to how did this happen?
Yes.
Maybe that I'm asking too much for some folklore.
Yeah, but I guess I feel like that's more, again, where I come in. I certainly haven't invented the word, but the phrase that I like to use is folkstory. It's the
Folkstory. I like that.
Thanks. It's like bridging the gap between folklore and history, and I think because the two marry so well together, and like I said to you earlier, you better understand the law of a landscape by first and foremost appreciating its history, and that's when you can start connecting the dots, and where you can start to go, oh, there are people out there that might enjoy folklore without wanting to know the history, without maybe wanting to know the whys. Being a historian first and foremost, I'm a questions girl first. Everything else follows, you know. Is it dangerous? That doesn't matter. I'm inquisitive. Let's go. You know, that I'm always on the lookout for learning, I guess, and wanting to know why.
Well, I did try and summon the devil earlier at the St Mary's
It
Church.
didn't work. You didn't dance though. You just walked around it 7 times.
How much heart did you put into it, you know?
I'm not a very good
You
dancer,
did have an audience.
and I
so
did
they
have
were
an
heckling.
audience, yeah.
They were heckling, so we didn't do it.
Yeah.
I see. Put off by the audience.
Complete
yeah.
strangers as well. That was.
You see, and this is the thing, just the camera, I'm fine. Like the video when we were going around the Higgins Museum in Bedford, there's me just being a bit of an idiot at some points, where there's a setup of a market stall and I put on the apron and I'm like,
He's a primary school teacher. Primary school teacher used to it.
Yeah,
Being a primary
exactly. Yeah, you have
That's what he
to.
does.
Yeah.
But the moment I've got that audience, that physical audience, like there, I'm like, no.
We're the opposite, you see. So, like, I found doing thank you for mentioning my online talk earlier, but I was way more nervous about doing that than I am any in-person talk. It's really, really weird. I don't like speaking to just a camera. You know, I'll do it. But
So that's the talk you did was over video, was
yeah, it
it?
was like like a Teams.
I wondered why it was very quiet. I was waiting for the round of applause and there wasn't one.
Oh, thank you. I hope you were doing it at home.
Yes,
yeah.
I really enjoyed it. No, in fact, I listened to it twice when I was driving up.
Oh,
It was a long journey. It kept me awake.
Oh, good. I mean, that's I'm a vibes girl, so I like to say. So I like to bounce off people, and I find that kind of hard sometimes when it's just like two camera. And I like to try and bring those vibes to my talks, you know, because I think I love a bit of theatre. You may have noticed from my table, you know, I like to just make the fun from it that I can. And I guess maybe that comes from my background in teaching. Again, if you can spice it up a little bit by making it a bit more theatrical and a bit more fun, then people will immediately be more drawn to what you're doing.
I think some of our best actors and comedians have been teachers.
Yes.
Because it's set them up. If you can survive an audience of pupils, especially if you're doing secondary.
If you can survive 34 teenagers,
you can survive anything.
To be fair, I do think it's more of a case like, because audiences, as you know, I've done acting and stuff. I'm fine with that. It was more the fact that these are random members of the public and you don't know what they're going to say, what they're going to do and how they're going to react. Whereas if they're sitting in seats or they're there listening to you because they're there to be there for you. And with the video, I suppose my safety blanket is this is on my terms and I'm happy to portray things on there. And when we're filming that, we're recording the podcast episodes and in the classroom and on the stage when you're performing, you're the person that's in control of the situation. Whereas those people earlier that did put me off a little bit, it was a case of, I don't know what they're going to do right now because I'm here to record for that and they're just random people. Sorry, you can now see my nervous energy, can't you? And it's that thing of these are random people. I don't know what they're going to do.
If you're going to get away with it anywhere, East Anglia is the place. Yeah, in the depths of East Anglia, heart of the Waveney Valley. Anything weird. I mean, I've had people. I've been fortunate enough yesterday to meet up with a friend from London who came down and is here for the weekend, and it's. You know, it's baptism by hellhound fire. It's, you know, he's finding it all like this, and it's great. He's keeping up, bless him. But you can tell that, you know, there's an element of like, this is a bit
very,
weird.
very different to London.
Yeah, and I'm just like, nah, this is just East Anglia, mate. This is just how we roll around here. Yeah.
Which is brilliant. We'd rather have it this way. So let's go. What's your favourite folklore story?
Okay. Well, I think we've kind of we're here for it already. Yeah. And the Devil's Church and Grimm's. I think we've touched actually on my three biggies. I mean, the thing with Shuck and the thing that keeps me coming back to Shuck, I think, and again, maybe it's a good way to tie it all off, but it's, you know, the thing that keeps me coming back to Shuck is how even now the story seems as relevant today as it was in 1577. There's even, you know, the earliest written account that I can find of a Shuck-like creature is from the Peterborough Chronicle of 1127.
1127.
Yeah, so this is how long this story is existing, and it continues to speak to people, it continues to be relevant, it continues to inspire, and I think if a story that old can do that, then there's magic to it, and I love that.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Well, it's rare. This is one of those stories. It's the first time I've seen one of these folklore stories that's had a report within my lifetime. So your relatives.
It's tangible.
Yeah, it's you know, I was 3 then. Yeah,
it's in your lifetime.
It was in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And so often, like even with ghost stories and stories, whatever it might be, we don't know when, and it could have been hundreds of years ago it was reported, maybe once, maybe twice. But you know, the story you portray and having the picture, the painting.
Yes. Well, that's why I'm here collating stories, because I think, you know, I'm very fortunate. My mentor, very good friend, is a historian named Ivan Bunn, and I mean, he's been involved in keeping so much East Anglian history and folklore alive. But he in the 70s documented a lot of Black Shuck stories, and nobody's really seriously done that since that time. And I just really want to, you know, for you're saying hearing it in your lifetime makes it tangible. Well, I want that for my daughter who's 7. I want that for the next generations. I want to keep the story going, and so much of that depends on that tangibility.
And the only way you're going to hear about it is if you keep the story alive.
Yeah, and sharing it.
Yeah. Because otherwise there'll be generations who've never heard of it, who will, if they experience it, will never be able to tell you, because no one's told them about it. That's why you have to keep it going.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's why we're here.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're probably doing what we're doing as well.
Yes. And we always like to find those odd stories that people don't necessarily know. So instead of doing the things like Loch Ness Monster, let's look at the weirdest niche story that we can find. And some of them that we've done, it's been so hard to find information about because it's a little story. So it was even things like, so I asked you earlier about how you got into folklore and everything, and for me, I got into ghosts and that, fun enough, through Great Yarmouth. Ernie Childs in Great Yarmouth, the potter, the artist, and he used to do ghost talks in the summer, and I went along to
the ghost talks and the ghost walks.
Yeah, and I have found that some of them tend to be linked to the Elizabethan house since COVID, and they charge you a lot of money to go and
okay.
So we filed that under
COVID-related red tape that's appeared.
Yeah, it's a bit like we keep mentioning it on the podcast, the Jamaica Inn in Cornwall, where it's been on Most Haunted, and you go there and it's basically like the Disneyland for ghosts, where you've got waxworks of smugglers and pirates.
Everything, every wall is just about ghosts watching you and his pictures. Yeah, that's it. And it's people, premium rates to stay overnight in the haunted rooms, even though the original Jamaica Inn would have been the size of this area here. And now it's and it's purely a money-making theme park.
Which is what I never want Shuck Festival to become.
It didn't feel like
No. It hasn't since its beginning. You know, I'm living so locally. Like I said, I'm like 5 minutes up the road. It has never felt anything other than DIY, grassroots.
I think it has to stay that way. It has to stay that way. You can't suddenly one year have floats and so we have the latest Disney floats in there. It has to be the folklore, purely. Otherwise, it will lose it instantly. It will lose any kind of appeal.
Well, we were saying earlier about, because obviously Steve used to live in Bedford, and in Bedford you've got the River Festival that happens every other year, and it's been a thing that's gone on for decades. Used to be all the celebration of Bedford and Bedford life. This year's one, which has just passed, and the one 2 years ago, and so on and so forth, it's all become this big commercialised thing where all of the food stalls, all of the even the bars, all done by massive festival organised companies, where you're looking at 30 quid for just a small portion of chips and a tiny little burger, and then you go and get a beer and it's like a tenner for a pint, and it's like, well, why am I going to do that when I can just go to the pub around the corner? But the people that are coming into Bedford, they might not know that behind that row of houses there's a pub that is going to be cheaper and the food's going to be nicer.
I think it's
become a shadow of its former self, because it's now become a very generic thing, which I don't even. I walked down and you actually messaged me saying Sandy, which is his wife, has just gone out. Do you want to record something? I went, yeah, I'm heading home now. Whereas previous years, when I was a student, I would go down and learn things about Bedford, and they used to do a lot of the history stuff, and I used to love it. And it's now just, and that's what was amazing about being here today. Of everything today has been about Bungay, it's been about Black Shuck, it's all been, here are the stories of the area, here are the stories of the folklore around it. And it's just been a really amazing day, and it feels very quintessentially British. And it's just been a wonderful event.
Yes. So, it's got that eccentricity about it, which I love. I love folkloric and British eccentricity. Like I lean into that so much. But then I think what I feel it will maintain that is, you know, earlier we were talking about, you know, I'm the sharing is caring. The more people that are into it, great. But then what comes with that maybe is the potential huge crowds and over commercialisation. And I totally appreciate the bigger something gets, the bigger the kind of money making infrastructure around it gets. So I understand that it's kind of a double-edged sword, but with hosting this event here in Bungay, it's such a small town, it will only ever have a ceiling on what it can you know, take, and I think that will therefore kind of exclude this hugeness of, you know, commercialisation. And I hope so too. I think there is a limit geographically on it becoming that, which, you know, I hope is.
What I'd like to see in future is like the three tons.
Yes.
I would like to see them have something about their history and their ghosts and supernatural.
Really
and a lot of the places around, I think they should embrace that part of it too. And again, then you encourage the visitors to come and people to come all year round, not just one weekend in August. It could be all year people come to actually experience.
It's really interesting.
Not in huge numbers, but enough to keep money coming in.
To keep the town going. Someone I spoke to earlier actually came by, and they are huge on the history when it comes to the 3 tons. They've worked there, and he was telling me, the basement's haunted, and my friend Chris is doing a gig there later tonight, and he's in the basement, and he was like, part of the basement used to be part of the old castle, like perimeter wall, and so there's so much that, you know, I live down the road and I don't know about it, so I was just, you know, I sort of was like, I'll catch you at the bar later and you can tell me more, you know. It's that kind of, I need to know more of what, you know, what is going on here and the history here, and again, how that keeps the town alive and how that keeps people interested. And
I think it's really important to keep towns alive, and because if you keep the town alive, the kids who've grown up here can actually live here. They don't have to move away. And that's, to actually keep that community. And again, you run that risk of losing it when kids have to move.
And then the oral tradition of folklore stays. And
Absolutely.
Although I'm not. If my daughter grew up and was like, "Mum, I want to, travel the world," like, go ahead, go live wherever you want. I'm certainly not trying to keep her planted to East Anglia. But I just think if you keep enough people from the area in the area, it will keep a lot of.
I mean, I've done that. I've moved away. I've moved all over the place, and if I ever go back, it's never the same. I can't go back. But what you want is it to remain the same.
Yeah.
So people, your daughter goes away for a year, she comes back, and this is home. It's still the same. She remembers it.
Because it just doesn't change. I'm very sure you're feeling that.
Yeah.
Like,
So I think you were saying about you fell in love with staying here. For me, the side of Norfolk that I'm from, it is very dull and boring, and it's just fields and flat fields, and and if you go for a walk, you're just looking at the same fields over and over again.
It's like, hasn't Cambridgeshire got like the highest suicide rate or something?
Well,
it's like that. It's crazy. You think?
yeah. So I'm sort of north, so sort of down the market sort of way.
Right. Okay.
And it's a case of, even like down the market, I went to school there. There's nothing there. They go, "Oh, have you seen our clock?" "Yeah, I've seen your clock." What's special about it?" "Oh, somebody built it a while ago." "Okay, cool."
But it may be that
Lovely.
thing, whereas if you'd actually, say, grown up and actually started looking into the things that we're looking into now, you may have discovered that rich history of folklore there, which could have been enough to make you fall in love with the area.
Maybe I'm just
All the
lucky
cool
enough. I'm
stuff
a
is this
weirdo.
way.
That I was like, hey, I like the history.
Well, I think you've got those family stories, which has helped,
Yeah.
which has
very
been
true.
excellent foundational building blocks for a life.
Again, this is why I am the way I am. Yeah, I mean, and I find with East Anglia it's really strange. People either go and that is it, but they come, or they go and they come back because they miss it so much. I think you're in one of the two. You either leave and come back because you're like, and again, that could take decades, that could take 5 years, that could take a year. But then there's other people that are just like, I've taken everything I need from East Anglia and I need to get out. Like, my siblings sort of are both in that category. One's gone to Edinburgh and will never come back. One went to Kent and had to come home because they missed home.
To be fair, I have said that if I were to move back into East Anglia, it would either be in or around Norwich and then get a season ticket for the football.
But Norwich is amazing. I've got so much love for Norwich.
Yeah, or somewhere like, more this way. So even like, probably not Great Yarmouth itself, but somewhere like Caistor-on-Sea or one of those little towns or villages around there.
Corton between Lowestoft
like
and
that,
you've still got that beach vibe, but it's not like a bigger sort of area. Yeah.
And I always feel, I was saying this to Steve on the drive over here that I don't know if it is purely because obviously I am a Norfolk boy and grew up here and also spent all holidays this side, but I always feel a sense of peace. As soon as I cross that border, I feel that sense of peace and just calm and just go, yep, I'm good. I'm good. Life is good right now.
You take the boy out of Norfolk, but not the Norfolk out of the boy. Hey?
Yeah.
They do say that though. That is.
It was even like the school trip I did this year was to, what was it called? I literally said the name yesterday. Wimpole Hall, on the outskirts of Cambridge, which used to have a farm on it and that. And we went into this exhibition, and they've got a whole bit of a trusher machine. And I was like, "Oh, kids, yeah, come here. Right, do you all know a combine harvester?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Right, you see this? This is a combine harvester before a combine harvester." And they're looking at me like, yeah, whatever. And they're saying, "Yeah, and this is how it works. It goes up there, and the farmer will stand on here and do this and do." And they're just looking at me like, "Okay, fair enough." Yeah. We get our food from Tesco. What we were talking about.
I'm finding that even with my little one growing up, there are people that would either look at our life and go, "Wow, that's idyllic," or they'll go, "Wow, that's really simple and boring." But we have a field just outside our house, and it's like one of our favourite things in the year when they come and cut down the grass and turn it into hay bales. And my daughter absolutely loves it. And when she sees the tractor approaching the field, she's like, "Mummy, it's happening!" And we've been fortunate enough that, again, because the farmer who owns the bit of land knows someone who knows someone. There's been years where we've ended up in the tractor whilst he's like making the hay bales and bringing out ice pops from our house and being like, and it's, I love that because it's so idyllic and whimsical. Other people would be like, that's so boring and tragic, but I guess it depends on what line you fall on. But
And the thing of East Anglia is you are never alone. Like I said earlier about you go into a pub, you can talk to anyone in there. It doesn't matter who you talk to, you can say hello to any of them. Or even just walking down the street, you say hello. And they're like, hello. And you go, how are you? You have a little conversation. Or you can make those little jokes. Like, just yesterday, we walked past a bloke who, he was actually wearing a Leeds top, but it was yellow and green. And I could see the Leeds badge. And I just went, oh, you catfished me there. And he went, why is that? I went, I thought it was a Norwich top. And he went, oh, no, disgusting. And then it was that interaction. You don't get that in other places as such. Like walking down the town centre of Bedford, you say hello to someone, they look at you as if to say, what's going on? Am I in trouble? Are you in trouble? What? And they have that sense of, or you go into a pub and you say hello to anyone that's not the barman or somebody that you don't vaguely know, and they look at you as if to say, what?
I have this with my sister because, believe it or not, it's social situations don't bother me at all. But we always say that I'm the black cat to my sister's Labrador. So she is friends with everyone. She's the best person for me to go out with because she's friends with everyone immediately. Talks to everyone immediately. She's so charming that everybody will gravitate to her. So it's great for me because I get to be my black cat and hang back and just sort of assess and I'll make friends with the right people. And it's, once you've got me, I'm loyal for life. But it's that. But even in East Anglia, I get by just fine being Black Kage, where I can sort of, weigh things up and assess. I'll always find the right person. I'll always find, this is my in, or so and so, or something about this, or this is a bit of history. And again, the thing with history as well, I feel so lucky that that's a passion of mine and that's my sort of academic subject, because I used to say this to the kids that I'd teach as well. I'd say, you might not, appreciate history now. You might not think it's for you, but at some point in your life, history will catch up with you. There is, and the problem with obviously teaching is that you've got a very narrow curriculum, as we were mentioning, and you can only cover so much. But that somebody out there is absolutely fascinated in the history of desk chairs or, of toothbrushes. I don't have time to teach that, but you will find that, and at some point, history will catch up with you, and that's, I think it's great because I think you can therefore appreciate each other's standpoint, because it's like, oh, you like the history of that, I like the history of this, and
that's it. It is the history. You can go down to precisely down to what you are interested with.
A universal language.
And how fed up are we getting of the Tudors at the moment on the podcast? Every time you do a ghost story, it's a woman in Tudor dress. Of course, it's a woman in Tudor dress. It's not going to be it's not going to be a ghost from any other time period.
Ricky Gervais says that, doesn't he? It's like, why are there like no ghosts of like cavemen, or like why do they all look like a Victorian?
Maybe they're like the Romans who they're walking on the Roman roads, which have been built up over the years. You only have to see the top of them walk past, because the rest are underneath the ground. There are reported ghosts like that, which you only see part of them. So how many ghosts are underneath the ground and we don't even see them? Oh, well, that's the thing. Talking about planes of existence and dimensions. We did an episode about jinn the other day, and of course, jinn is there. They're obviously it's pre-Islamic, pre-Muslim Arabic culture, but they are interdimensional creatures. Even back then, they suspected them coming from dimensions.
Yeah. So even then it was,
This is talking 1,000 years ago.
Think of the knowledge that we've lost over the years by, kind of organised religion, capitalism, patriarchy.
Every ism there is.
Every ism or established controlling regime. Yes.
But that was fascinating, because then I looked into UFOs in the Middle East. And the things that are reported in the Middle East, huge amounts of UFOs, and especially since the Americans have been heavily surveilling the Middle East, the things they've captured, which don't qualify as alien spaceships, but look almost like interdimensional creatures. But they put them as UFOs because they're flying, or UAPs, but when they're looking like they've got legs and tendrils and look like giant jellyfish flying around, that doesn't look like a UFO. That's potentially interdimensional. Is that a djinn? Are djinns, do they really live side by side? And if they do live side by side, then it won't just be there, it'll be everywhere. Those dimensions around us. And, maybe witchcraft is.
Yeah.
Paganism taps into those other dimensions which do exist.
How many weird medieval paintings are actually djinns? These weird things that we
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
Because they can take whatever form they want.
It makes you think, doesn't it? But again, just that historian hat is always like, I wonder what that could be or what that is. Or... Oh, it all is. Yeah. I think, Witchcraft 101, everything is linked. So, yeah.
It's when you break those links and everything falls apart.
Yeah, or don't respect them.
Yeah, I don't respect them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now, I'm very aware that you obviously
Yes,
have other
everyone's
things to do.
on
And
now,
however much I would love to just sit here and chat to you all day, I know that you're far busier than we are, so
Well, you've got to go do We Are Witch.
Yes,
we do need to go do We Are Witch.
Go look at that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you. And hopefully we can cross paths again. We've got email addresses and
Yeah, this won't be the last.
And would you like to let everyone know where they can find you?
Oh, amazing. Okay. Oh, this is the bit that I'm probably not so good at.
We're back on the website as well, so it'll be everywhere.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, great. Yeah, thanks. I'm Katie Hardy, but I go by East Anglian Kage online. Follow me on Instagram at East Anglian Kage, where I basically share all my events and what I'm up to. Coming up, I'm talking at the Norwich Pagan Moot. I'm doing a whole talk on Wolven iconography and history in East Anglia. I've got a witchy workshop in Colchester in October coming up, and Antros Arts in December. So there's lots going on. I will keep everybody posted on there. Please follow. Please spread the word. Folkstory all the way.
Folkstory.
Folkstory.
Folkstory, that's my new favourite thing.
Oh, thanks.
I've taken from you.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. And
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for listening to this week's episode of Boo Foons Mystery Investigators. Yeah, very interesting conversation there with Katie.
Hopefully more to come.
Anything more you want to add before I
No,
do the usual sign off?
No, I just want to thank Katie for all the stickers, badges, cards, and everything else she gave us. It's nice to. I've got stickers on places where stickers should be.
But yes, do go and follow Katie on Instagram, East Anglian Kage. I will also put her links and stuff in the description of this episode. You can also find her links on the website as well, boofoons.co.uk. As always, go to social media, give us a follow, a like, a share, drop a comment. Do look at our Patreon for the bonus content, and do please consider giving us a little bit of money to help us keep the podcast going. Join us on our Discord server where you can chat to us. Come back Saturday for a silly episode of Boo Foons Off the Case. Join us next Wednesday for another Boo Foons mystery that we look at and try and talk about and solve. We've never actually solved anything, have we? I didn't really know where I was going with that sentence. Yeah. But
Just join us for another mystery.
Yeah, join us for another mystery. Bye.
Bye.
Boo Foons Mystery Investigators.